And be athletic. What we're going to do is a simple assessment drill that's also a warm-up drill, that's also a restoration drill, that's going to help us understand or take a snapshot of what's going around as we really challenge your ability to rotate, because it just turns out squatting up and down isn't really sport, right? It doesn't really show me all the things that need to happen through the system, whether that's the foot or rotation at the knee or rotation at the hip. Then we're going to go ahead and take a crack at feeling that for ourselves. A simple hands-on assessment that I think everyone should be able to do as a coach. Hey, I see it looks like you're struggling at this today. Let's take a look and see, make sure you have the components to that. We're gonna do a mobilization that doesn't require any equipment. That's a 1 or 2 minute simple intervention that allows us to understand and administer to potentially that tissue restriction. It's very simple. But ultimately, this should be a no surprise to any of us, because we're always running a diagnostic tool, a diagnostic system, and that diagnostic system is strength and conditioning. Strength and conditioning is the formal, modern movement language. Sport is not classical ballet, it's more interpretive dance and modern dance, where I take these formal principles and I recombine them. But strength conditioning, formal, and it allows me to understand what's happening in real time. As a coach, ultimately I want to be competent enough that I can see someone move and be like, missing some dorsiflexion, we need to work on some intra-rotation. Here's a set of drills we're going to support in the gym, and here's a set of mobilizations or positions we're going to do to try to restore that. That's what I'm trying to get to as a sport coach. Right to the matter. But at high speed and at high complexity, it's difficult for us to understand and interpret what we're seeing, especially as strength and conditioning coaches, where we potentially are not ever just coaching one sport, we're coaching 50 sports. We have athletes from all these things. So instead of ever pretending like I know anything about baseball, when I work with Cy Young Award winners, I don't talk about baseball. I talk about, well, I see that you can't do what your body's supposed to be able to do, especially when we do the movements of training. So let's improve those things. And what comes back to me from national team coaches, world-class coaches, Olympic coaches is, what were you doing with that athlete? They were so easy to coach and they were so much better at their sport. And I was like, well, we front squatted, we pressed, we snatched. And they're like, I don't get it. I'm like, I know, it's okay, you don't get it. But all I did was restore, look at what they couldn't do, load them, the tissues in the system we wanted to load, restore those missing positions, and then give that athlete permission to use all that range and all that strength and all that tissue tolerance in their sport. That's what we have to do. So let's define terms first. Come stand up for me, and we're gonna talk about what I call the reference foot position. And again, we're trying to tie in what the lads did yesterday. When you watch someone move, can you make that assessment? We're gonna take a step further and highlight some rotation. When I say foot position, and don't move your feet, pause and look down. Are you balanced between the ball of your feet, come up on the balls of your feet, come up on your heel, and then get 50-50 ball of foot to heel. Then get 50-50 side to side. Are you balanced? Do you have one foot that's doing weird things? Just pay attention to that awareness. Look down at your ankles and put your ankles in the middle of your feet. So I'll say this once, talking to you out there in internet land. Knees out is a cue not to drop your arch. That's all knees out is. If I see your foot collapse, I'm gonna say, shove your knee out a little bit. Okay, your foot's up. If you can pick up your foot and not move your knee out some weird way, that's magic. That's super cool. But ultimately, knees out is just a rotational cue to get your foot pressure back. So when we're trying to improve athletic coordination, we're trying to push through that full foot. So if I come up on my toes, my vector's going that way. If I'm on my heels and loading, I don't have my quads, my vector's going a different direction. I ultimately want to compress and jump through that full foot. So I'm trying to correct bar path. We look at, are you able to keep that full foot pressure even through transition, full foot, until you get to need to really jump. And what we see is that athletes are chasing around, forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. As we swing kettlebells, the kettlebell's trying to pull me forward. I'm trying to fight back. As it loads, it's trying to pull me back. I'm trying to float forward. I'm constantly fighting these issues, making mistakes, being dragged out of position, and trying to come back to this reference foot position. Make sense? In sport, my feet are gonna move. That's okay. But in strength conditioning, we can control all the pieces. So Now we have our identity of what we think is our reference foot position. This is the shape. So feet straight for me, because I also want to try to understand what's going on. And look, I know you're functional with your feet turned out a little bit. We know that. That's not what we're talking about here. I want you to have choice. So what I want you to do is squat as deep as you can without interrupting that foot position. If your feet turn out, you went too deep. If your foot collapses, you went too deep. If you do something weird with your foot pressure, you went too deep. So some of us today, because of what's going on or how old we are or how beat up we are, this may be our squat. Show me the deepest squat you can maintain, keeping that reference foot position, squat. As deep as you got. So a couple things. One, can you breathe down there? Two, I should be able to get hip crease below the knee, foot pressure. Raiders, your feet are turned out. Can you get them straighter? You have to shove your knees out to get there. And then also I should be able to play volleyball down here. Or push something away. Or shoot someone in the face. Whatever's into your thing. I'm not really into face shooting, but you know, I do like volleyball. That's right. So in this position, if I can play volleyball here, that means I have thoracic extension. Yesterday we learned from Xanis that my hands internally rotate, I internally rotate. If my hands externally rotate, I have an extension moment in my back. That's why we teach tackling with thumbs up, elbows in, right? And also this position allows me to be in a better, more functional shape. Okay, piece of cake, right? Good. Let's challenge that basic position with something that looks more athletic. Let's see you drop into that position a little faster. Go. Pause. What's your foot pressure doing? We added speed or no speed. It's totally okay. That's all right. Your speed is position. Come up a little higher so your back's not rounded and you can play volleyball. Excellent. Ankles in the middle of the feet. We add a little challenge of position. Can you shove that right knee out a little bit more? Perfect. Now, the only reason I said that is I'm looking at what? Your right ankle. So bring your knee in, look at your foot, shove your knee out. See the difference? Okay, and more importantly, can you feel the difference? Yes. Good, it's all about feeling. Stand back up. Let's add a little bit more complexity. Go from a narrow foot to jump and stick that bottom position. Can I play volleyball here? Did I round to get here? Did I turn out? So what's that look like when you hit that bottom position? Go. Are you starting to make errors? Why are you accumulating errors? This is an easy position. Foot turned out, arch collapsed. We start adding speed, we start adding complexity, we start to accumulate more movement choice. The brain is working hard and I might not be able to buffer potential range of motion restrictions. You start to see what I'm happening here? So as we start to add complexity, squatting, all of a sudden I'm like, squatting is simple. You go up and down, like you control everything. But what happens if I need to change direction? Can I come back to that reference foot position? Give it a try. I had a knee replacement.
I saw that. I was like, that's impressive.
Stick. If you didn't like your landing, that's okay. If your feet aren't straight, that's okay. Make your feet straight. Correct your foot pressure. Make the correction. That position's not super athletic, so make the correction. Make the correction. Feet are turned out, ankles are in. Hey crew, the only thing I said was, I want you in the reference foot position when you land. Perfect. That simple. All I did was take a skill and challenge that skill with some speed, and then challenge that skill with some change of direction, and that looks like sport again, right? We just added complexity, but suddenly we're beginning to accumulate less effective positions that don't translate as well. Ooh, ninja. And more importantly, what we're trying to do is build this idea of it's okay to make mistakes, but I want to make sure my athletes can feel what's going on and they have a chance to correct. So through the rest of this drills, make your mistakes, but fight 50-50, left foot to right foot, 50-50, front foot to back foot, ankles in the middle. Doesn't matter what we do. You have to be able to keep your back up, take a breath, play volleyball. So here's our 27 squat drill. We do this with a lot of our teams. I started doing it with my child's 12-year-old volleyball team. It takes about 90 seconds. Feet straight, any squat width that feels good to you, and you know what the rules are. Give me one squat. Again, and hold that bottom position until you're sure you like your feet. Again, shove your knees out in order to hold that arch up. And then as soon as you feel like you own that position and you're balanced, push through that full foot, come back up. Good. It's already a more powerful squat. Now turn your feet out 30 degrees. Everyone's like, oh no, movement variability. All I do is squat up and down like a robot. Okay, in this position, where's the weight?
The weight? I feel like it's more on my heels.
It's on your heels. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Get 50-50. It's kind of impossible. Your arches are totally collapsed there. Disrespecting me like that?
We're good.
Fantastic. So I need to be able to turn the leg and maintain the foot position. I might even do something that looks like surfing or skating. All right, I may box, and this is not a great athletic position, is it? Yes. So let's go ahead and turn the feet out, because sometimes I might have to pull sumo, or I might have to lift something that's in a weird position. So show me you can squat with the foot like that. Go. What do you have to do with your knees? Oh, that's a terrible position. Shove those knees further out. Further, further, further. Your right arch is collapsed. You need to come higher. Good, there you go. You came to a position you owned, at a depth you owned. As soon as you own that position, stand up. Perfect, beautiful. Let's go feet in 30 degrees. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean, ooh? You better be able to do that. Now check this out. Do you ever jerk? You ever cut? Right, you're gonna turn that foot in a lot, I promise. You ever surfed? That foot is turned in. That's where I go. We just talked about blocking. Do you block like that? Hopefully not. You won't block like that for long. I better have this movement choice, which means I better have a rotation window to draw from to choose which position gives me the most power and offers the solution. So feet 30 degrees, your right foot is straight. People are like, it's crazy, I'm crazy. What's going, oh, they're straight. Turn your feet in, one squat. Don't collapse your arches. Shove your knees out, and look what's happening. Your feet are screwing straight as you go down. Keep them 30 degrees. Hey, knees are inside the feet. Oh no. But that's okay if what? The system is stable and my arches are engaged. 30 degrees with the feet. I know, I've had a knee replacement.
What's up?
All right. Now check this out. That's our pattern. Foot straight, foot out, foot in. Are you already starting to learn something about your rotation choice? Those are the easy positions. Now let's take one hip and put it into extension. So feet straight, heel on the ground, at least just clear the other heel. Are you 50-50 front to back? Figure that out. Look at your feet and pick up the arches so you're in the middle of your foot, so that if you have to step back, you don't just collapse. We talked about this yesterday a lot, didn't we? So instead of being here, I'm just here. Same foot position, maintain the integrity of the system. So with feet straight, 50-50, show me one squat. No arches left behind. As deep as you are able, going as slow as you need so you can feel this for the first time. So go as deep as you want. You have no weight on your left foot. 50-50. That right foot turned out. Keep that heel down. That left knee needs to go out in order to look, and you have no weight on your left heel. I can see it. And now you have no weight on your right foot. 50-50, shove that left knee out. There it is, shift back and forth till you feel like you own that shape. Until I feel like I own that shape. 50-50, arches engaged. Can play volleyball here. I'm at a depth where I'm still functional. Stand up, push through the whole foot. Now where do we go next? Feet out. Squat number 7. This is it, this is squat number 4, sorry. And squat.
I got a random question for you.
Yeah.
So a lot of my fastest, most explosive athletes are naturally pretty fit.
I wonder why. They create a ton of torsion that way, don't they?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But they're missing a ton of extension, I feel like, too.
Could be. We'll talk about that. So go ahead. You got now same foot forward, feet in, one squat, or feet out, one squat, feet in, one squat. Don't collapse your arch. Go as deep as you can. Keep your weight balanced. When you own that position, stand up. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Why are you holding your breath for a one body weight squat? Good. You turn your feet in 30 degrees, one squat. Let's go the other foot forward. I know. This being normal and typical is so hard. And if this is this group, what do you think our athletes are looking like? Highly restricted. One squat.
This side's way better.
Yeah, and we might have a squat. Feet straight, feet out, feet in. Take yourself through those 3. Once you own that position and you've made the correction, you can stand up. Once you make sure that you have made the correction and you're feeling what's going on, that arch has collapsed as you pushed in.
Right.
Yep. Go ahead and do it again. Now push through. There you go. Do you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. What are you understanding about your movement choice? Am I going to be able to rotate across? That rotation isn't about the thoracic spine. It's about the whole system, including my ability to rotate through the hip, how well my knee tolerates these rotations, and what the heck is going on with my feet. So now we're starting to build an idea of what's happening. We saw that when I gave you the most movement choice and added speed, some of us started and changed direction. Some of us started to have the deviations in our technique. Then we started to challenge that, and we had hard times feeling maybe we hadn't done that before, or we haven't exposed that. Remember, training is an opportunity to get to know yourself again. Based on what you did yesterday, based on your injury history, we're trying to get you in. How do I feel what's happening? How do I restore these ranges and keep an eye on this? Instead of just saying you need another cylinder on the car. Just one more cylinder on the car will solve all the problems. I want you to have more movement choice, movement solution. All the things we're doing, we teach as tie goes to runner, as in they're very easy tests to pass. This uncompensated, uncomplicated squat, hip crease below the knee, balanced foot to heel, ankles in the middle is our reference squat position. Come back to that and see how easily and effortlessly you can hit that. Notice that your feet are spinning out. Notice that you may not hit that deep position with your back rounded, eyes up, looking down the field. A depth that I own, fantastic. Know what's going on. Okay, let's go feet together. Now ideally I can squat feet together, knees together, all the way down, but it's okay if your knees to come out a little bit. But main thing is I don't want you to lose your back position, and I want you to be balanced, ball of foot to heel. Go. How deep can you go? Again. Fantastic, come on back up. Good. And now we're starting to train in positions where we're not deviating from that. Let's go feet up. One squat. Arches collapse, don't let them go. Balance ball foot to heel. I see a lot of heel, I see no toes. Good, stand back up. Let's go toes in. What am I doing? I'm just rotating. I'm just asking you to bend your knee and rotate a little bit, right? Solve that problem. Eyes up, playing volleyball. Can you receive in that position? Can you push through that full foot? That's tough, isn't it? Perfect. Coach, on your back. I'm gonna touch you now for an instructional purpose only. All right, I want everyone to watch what we're doing. We're all gonna do it. So, what we're trying to do for the next step as coaches is I know everything about your hips right now. I know a lot about your hips. Again, I don't know what your injury history is, I don't know your movement history, but today I saw what was happening in your ability to achieve those positions. This is a simple way to make sure an athlete has enough hip flexion. I'm gonna bend their leg up, just relax, let that thing go for me. And what I should do is I should easily have how much hip flexion? How much should her knee go forward? 120, 130. How about I should easily be able to squat hip crease below the knee? Oh, hey, look, that looks like a deep squat. So you already have this motion in your head. But as soon as I took it out of the context, you're like, I don't know how the hip moves, I didn't know. So in this position, remember, if they're at 90 degrees, what do you think their depth's gonna look like on their squat? We already saw it. 120 to 130, and it should be effortless. And notice the leg doesn't spin out, it should just go straight up. So our first assessment is to give some contact, and then I say, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna move your knee to your chest, okay? And then that happens. And I run into a little tissue at the end, but that's the end. What we're looking for is not missing 1 degree, we're looking for big chunks. And you'll find that athletes who are struggling for depth or struggling for rotation, you'll move their knee up and they run into 90 degrees. Check this out, stand on one leg, squeeze your butt, lift your other knee as high as you can, straight up. That's your hip range of motion. Do you see that that is the same thing we just assessed right here? except I'm taking all of the stabilization demands out of it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That march test. That's the first assessment. Second assessment is this rotation. When this leg is straight up and down, we want a rotation window of about 75 to 90 degrees. So external rotation, leg spins in, and notice the leg doesn't drop out, I hold it still. And if I just made a box, that's 90 degrees or 45 degrees. You see that? That's great. Internal rotation is there. Is that 30 to 45 degrees? No, she's a little deficient there, and we saw that some. But her rotation window is we're looking for 75 to 90 degrees. And what we see is, hey, that's not 100%. We might be able to improve that, but that's going to be a whole lot more than some of you guys who are stiff. We saw a guy in the last group whose rotation window was this. And the problem is when I have a stiff system that starts to steal all of that fascia, starts to wind up all those tissues, the hip starts to become proud in the socket, it comes up, and that's the potential mechanism for why we start to see labral tears and labral irritation, and why we start to have neural problems, and the low back gets tight. And it's simply the fact of the tail wagging the dog. The system is so stiff. So you're gonna feel 5 hips, give that knee up, the knee shouldn't spin out. You'll see that if someone is missing that range, if you bring their leg out, you can get a lot further. I wonder why these people like to squat with a wide stance, right? They can hide their limitations. When I assess this, I look at this, but I really look at what's going on with rotation in the hip and even a more compromised position. This assessment we're doing is real mid-range, and it gets missed by everyone. We pick up athletes all the time who have these really occult problems, professional athletes with all the resources, and no one has looked at their rotation window. And if you are missing this rotation window, it's sure gonna be hard to throw, sure gonna be hard to cut, sure gonna be hard to choose a different squatting position. Grab that leg, bring it up to midline, tell what you're doing, I'm gonna bring your knee to the chest, and now I'm gonna check your rotation and check, should your left hip equal your right hip? Yes. Well, likely that your left hip equals your right hip? No. We're always chasing, right? Go feel some hips. All the other coaches around.
Physical touch.
So with the hips, I know that like genetically speaking, as far as like Asian, Caucasian, they have different like hip socket joints. Would that come into play with some of the ability of, you know?
Yeah.
Crew, listen up. Are all hips different?
Yes. They're all beautiful.
That's right. Does everyone have normative range of motion in their hips? Yes. The research does not support your snowflake hip theory. That does not support. Because by the time you look at the femur and the hip, the torsion through the knee, the actual structure of the knee joint, the torsion through the tibia and down the ankle, the brain has solved this problem again. And by the way, we're talking about 5 degrees of retroversion. Why are you squatting at 20 degrees? So you'll see that that already makes itself up in the chain. The difference is, you may not be a world-class Olympic lifter being able to keep your back straight in the bottom position stapled under 200 kilos. That's the difference. You might reverse earlier. But weird that you can squat in any culture. And every child in every culture can squat. And even the Scottish have an Olympic lifting team. Just saying, super weird. And that genetic drift thing doesn't even hold up. So that's all just horse crap. So just keep in mind that every once in a while we do see hip dysplasia, and every once in a while someone will have a bony block, but our job is to figure it out. And if I push into something that feels like 2 bones hitting each other, what's happening? 2 bones are hitting each other. Yeah, okay, all right, well that's not a soft tissue problem. We probably can't correct that. That's what you got today, okay? Does that make sense? If someone is like, hey, I have a hard time squatting, you start to move their leg, they're like, it's gonna dislocate. What's about to happen? Yeah, that's super weird. That person's not squatting with you anyway, okay? Feel those hips. There's no snowflake hip. The research does not support that. Anecdotal evidence does not support that.
Like you can't squat toes forward because you have retroverted hips, basically?
Crap.
Ah, okay.
Again, remember, this is a quick assessment. Hey, I run into a wall there. Hey, whoop, just look at that rotation. We're looking for the total rotation window. Crew, Rader's got his rotation window. How come you don't have your rotation window?
Did I understand what you're saying is that basically, despite like anatomical differences,
Anatomical differences? How could we possibly teach technique?
There is none.
So it must be for the shoulder too? Okay. How do we teach technique for anything? Why is it just the squat is so special?
I don't know. I guess that's what I'm saying.
What's your favorite internal rotation opener?
Oh, we're gonna do that next.
That might
It's not horrible. It's who you are today based on everything that's going on. So really, I mean, I think that was really look at it. Like, I don't know what your history is, what's going on. I know you're a great athlete, and so what we're trying to figure out is how do we improve your rotation and movement options? That language, even terrible, it's our old language. We're just trying to say, hey, part of my job as a coach is, hey, discover, hey, you're super weak and unskilled, and also you can't do what your body's supposed to be able to do. Feel some hips real quick. There is no reason why you can't do this to every single athlete. No athlete, this should not be a mystery. I'm asking you to do all these different squats and movements and jumping and landing. Let's just make sure you have the language to do that.
got the right window. You made it. Good job.
Check out the window on that, coach.
Don, you want to switch it up?
For an instructional purpose only.
Oh. No.
Oh no, the ball is.
Hey, crew. Recently, a big research came out looking at the Achilles, and that when you jumped and landed with your foot turned out, the Achilles had all of this rotational movement that happened to it. It moved laterally. So how do I tear duct tape off the roll? Do I pull on it or do I rotate it? That's one of the potential mechanisms for when we see plantar fascia problems, we see these tendinopathies, is that we're creating huge amounts of force and the tendon is pulling off axis or obliquely. So we're just trying to have better, more effective movement, especially in our formal movement. We're gonna do tons of things. Go watch a rugby game and tell me what's going on with the feet. Like, you're gonna need all that movement choice. Okay, did I need to do this to confirm what I saw with your squat? As soon as I said jump off the ground, and some of you struggled to get to full depth and have that foot choice, I started to think to myself, I wonder what's going on. Then I did a drill where I exposed you some movement and some rotation. That was the first order of business. I didn't lay you down and assess you. I was like, well, let's see if you can control that slowly, and we found that we couldn't do it slowly. So now I have this passive confirmation, which oftentimes for me is for proving something to the athlete and also giving me potentially an objective measure. We measure things. So an objective measure can mean, hey, your squat went up, that's an objective measure. You were able to achieve a deeper range of motion that you can see and I can see, that's an objective measure. And another objective measure is, hey, we did this and look at this, your passive range of motion improved. That's another objective measure, test, retest. So here's a simple drill we call the hip capsule mobilization. Remember, we have skill transfer exercises, which are corrective exercises, and then we have position transfer exercises, which are mobilizations. We're mobilizing to restore a position. So what is my position I'm trying to restore? Hip flexion, hip rotation, right? Those are the things I'm trying to improve. And we have definitive ranges there. This isn't wishy-washy, I feel good, 120 to 130, plus a decent rotation window of 75 to 90. That's it. Then I can do a lot of choices. I can squat a lot of different widths and solve a lot of movement problems. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna load my knee, just like this, got all my weight going through my femur. Come join me. And the key here is to keep your femur, all your weight going through the femur so that it feels like your femur's gonna pop out the butt like Alien. So in this position, when I do pigeon, my line of force is here and is not coming through my femur. Does that make sense? So line of force is through the femur. And the first thing I want you to do from here is weight bear through that femur. And I just want you to shift over so that your femur is now in your other pocket. So shift it across your body, but keep your line of force going through the femur. Got that? Now push that into some flexion. So a little bit deeper, go knee to chest. Now I'm just moving instead of moving my knee on my body, I'm just doing it the other way, right? My body's coming down, we're just squatting with what? My feet together, knees together here. Do you see what that is? Can you see that in your head? This is a foot together, knee together, single squat. And all I'm doing is keeping that line of force going through the femur. But instead of hanging out here, noodle around. Drop your other hip down. Go in and out, but don't be static. See if you can find the corner, find the ray, find the vector where you feel restricted. Again, knee is under the other hip. So I'm shifting that knee, my body over, so that knee is on the other side. Moving around. Just pushing in, push deep into flexion until you feel a bind. If you feel a pinch there, what is that? Impingement. Do you think you can keep pushing into that pinch? No. Do some contract, relax. Throw in an isometric there. Come back to 90, reset. Let's work on rotation. Kick the leg out. That's internal rotation. Block it with your leg. So now look at the rotation window we're working on. This is the rotation. We just assessed that. So now we're mobilizing at the position of restriction. Now shift that knee over to the other side. Now push into flexion. Now noodle around, internal rotation. Some of you are loving that. Some of you are bound up on the inside, some are bound up on the outside. Doesn't matter where you're bound up. Now do an isometric there. Just resist your own self. Try to take that leg out of internal rotation. Fight it, fight it. You're blocking, pushing it into the other leg. You're trying to externally rotate. Come back into neutral. Now you have a little more breathing room. Now kick that thing over. Resist it back. Oh, if that doesn't feel good in the grass, that's fine. Go over, block it again. Now try to look at your other hip. Look at the same hip. Now that's even rotating the other way. So now I've got the hip internally rotated and I'm trying to look over the same side. Woo, that winds that up even more, doesn't it? Now build an isometric there. Hold, 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 resist, resist, resist. Tell your brain you're in that position. Can you go extra rotation here too? Yep. Do the same things here, external rotation. But my weight is going through my femur. Now check this out, come back up. Stand on the leg you just mobilized. Assess the other leg. How's that feel? Now check the leg you just mobilized. Oh, I wonder if that's gonna change my running. Does that change the depth of my squat? Try a squat in this position. What do you notice? Feels like I have some more choice here. Feels like I can move my stance out. Feels like I can move my stance in. It feels like I have a choice about where I want to land to generate the most force. Does that make sense? Matt, what can we do? Where's Anis? Is he around? Okay, so now, what if I was like, hey, let's stand on one leg and do some plie lunges? Isn't that just adding some rotation? You have 1,000 drills to work on this and tie this together. But notice what we did first. I watched you move, had speed. I just did a little warm-up drill to make sure we're touching those corners, still building an idea of who you are. I did an assessment just to make sure I was proving to myself initially and proving to you that what I was seeing was making sense. And I dropped in a mobilization and then I retested. Does that make sense? Do your other leg. See if you can walk yourself through it. Could I do this hip capsule mob quickly in a warm-up?
Oh yeah.
Do I need thousands of pieces of dollars of equipment? Could I do 1 minute one side, 1 minute the other side? What happens if my athletes don't do it perfectly? Nothing, it's fine. But now at least I have an intervention where I can begin to talk about rotation and restoring this rotation. Keeping that line of force through the femur. I can either work on flexion by pushing that knee to chest, or I can work on the rotation. Go ahead and come out of that complicated position to 90 degrees and then really work on the rotation there. Kick that leg over, block it with your other leg. Look at the same side, and again, constantly noodling in and out of position. Breathe in, isometrics. Tell your brain you own that position. Throw in a contract, relax. So easy to do. Such a huge game changer when we start to add this rotation and keep an eye on this rotation with our athletes. Can we put a band on this and have one athlete banded to another athlete on the field? Yeah, sure. If someone's super pinchy, throw a band on them. They could become unpinchy in a second, right? But just make sure that you're driving that line of force straight through the femur and that this doesn't accidentally become pigeon pose. Test, retest. So how was your rotation before?
Stuck right here.
So relax, we're gonna be passive. So suddenly we start to improve his rotation window.
That's like twice as good.
And remember, now we've mobilized the tissues, we've created a window of opportunity. That wasn't passive, that was all active. Am I worried about an athlete standing up then and starting to do drills again? No. Warm-up sets? No. But if we're not looking at rotation, if we're not thinking about it, this is why the arch is a problem. This is why we see so many Achilles problems. If I turn that foot out because I don't have control and that foot lands and I don't know how to control it, there's the ACL, there's the meniscus. But more importantly, that's why you're slow. That's why you got beat. That's why you couldn't lift as much. That's why you had fewer movement choices. And the research is very clear about how your brain will start shutting down movement choices based on your available degrees of range of motion and freedom. You won't be able to correct or balance, and your brain starts saying you're gonna fall, so you're not gonna be able to do that. Questions?
Do you have a name for that hip capsule series?
Hip capsule mobilization.
Got it.
And the 27 squats. We built the app, so you didn't have to remember that. It's all in the app. And the reason I put an app there, I'm trying to move that movement assessment into the hands of the athlete. We have a self-assessment that I think is world-class there, so that an athlete can be able to do this for herself, for themselves, get programming to that, and then we all start to have a common assessment, quick test language. It's very easy. We don't need fancy tests. The test is the squat. Then we're just breaking down and looking at the components of the squat. Do you have that? So that ultimately we don't have to do any of that. The only thing we need to do is a little soft tissue work to reduce delayed onset muscle soreness, to keep the readiness up. That's the goal. But until we get everyone moving towards more normative range, we have to make sure that we understand what we're seeing. Especially athletes who are coming to us out of sport where we know they're spending their credits, right? Does that make sense? Our goal is to restore our athletes to a more native state so that they have more movement choice when they go to their sport. If it's just about fitness, just get fit. Just do more squats. Drink more milk, do more 20 rep squats, call it good. As long as you look good with your shirt off and you're happy with that, cool. But that's not the game we're playing here. Make sense? Good job, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.